I'm Jim McCormick, songwriter, staff writer at BMG.
What's up, I'm PJ Morton, singer-songwriter, keyboardist in the band Maroon 5.
And this is Grammy Pro Songwriter Week. I first kind of got the bug for being a songwriter when a woman by the name of Kim Carson, a country act here in New Orleans, recorded one of my songs. It was the first time I ever felt what it feels like to hear somebody sing my song from the stage. And that feeling was far more intoxicating than anything I'd ever felt as a performer on stage. I'd had bands and never really felt the thrill like I did when I heard somebody else perform in my words. And right there, I think I knew that was the path, if I was going to stay in music, that I was going to stay on right there.
Yeah. For me, I was growing up in church. My dad was a pastor, so and a singing pastor, a real singer. So there were songwriters and musicians around. So I kind of had the example of seeing these guys turn nothing into something. And so very early on, it started with them playing first, and then I wanted to not only just play these songs, but create the songs that people were singing and playing. So for me, it was pretty early, maybe 12, when I knew that that's what the direction I was gonna go.
For me, it was going to Nashville. You know, when I got to Nashville, that was when I saw how the sort of the ecosystem of songwriting fits into publishing and recording companies and artists, and particularly in Nashville, where country music has so many songs recorded, outside songs recorded by artists who don't write their own material. Mm-hmm. There's a real economy for pure songwriters, and I saw a job that I wanted so badly that nothing was going to keep me from it. I really loved it.
Yeah, that's the same thing for me, though. It was purely the love. At that point, as much as I had songwriters around me, I had no concept of placing a song on an album and like making money from it. I just wanted to do this, but had no idea. So when I was about 15, when I started driving, I would go to the studio on Dalman Road here in New Orleans, and it was $75 an hour, and I would take my little money, and with no concept of placing any songs, I just wanted to hear what they sounded like recorded. So I would create this music on my Yamaha, and go and record them. And it just so happened that one of my best friends, big brother, joined this group, and he was like, "Man, you should let my brother hear the song." I was like, "What?" You know, I was nervous. Let him hear it. Still had no concept. Songs placed on the album. Album comes out. I get a check, and I'm like, wait, I can make money from doing this? And that was it. The bug. I mean, I was like, because I would have done it for free, you know, and if I didn't have to eat, you know, I'd still do it for free because I just love it. But once I understood that, oh, I could do what I love and live from it, I was done. So I was a very serious 15, 16-year-old songwriter walking around. It's laughable now because some of these music execs at these labels, when I was going around saying, "Yeah, I'm a producer," you know, at 15 and 16, and they were like, "What's this kid doing?" But I just knew it from that point. I was real clear.
It's hard to understand where the money comes from sometimes when you're new to the business, and I think that, you know, if people can realize that the copyright is kind of where it's at,
yeah, and
everything is built off of that song, careers are built off of songs and all that, that it makes it a logical choice for a young musician to start writing his own material.
Absolutely.
I think, you know?
We're lucky in the sense that we get a chance to release some of these things that are on us, you know, when sometimes it's harder for others to find outlets to get these emotions and things out. You know, we get to go and write it out, you know, and I do feel blessed and lucky to be able to do that. I think that's a big difference. I think we maybe feel a little bit more because we have to feel for other people and kind of get in their bodies and speak for them. So I guess
yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, PJ. Yeah. I really do. And I think there's also there's a work ethic or sort of temperament to a songwriter. I like to call it kind of just the willingness to start over every day, because we hit the job with a blank piece of paper again and again, and that's a humbling experience for me to have to go at it again and hope that I can do it again each day that I go in.
I've had that fear a million times where it's like, man, am I gonna write a a song, let alone a good song again. You know, yeah, for sure.
You know, I have a few routines that really work for me. I like to get up really early before dawn and make a pot of coffee and do a little reading and have that time before the phone starts ringing and the world starts coming in at me, just to kind of, you know, do some reading or do some thinking about the previous songs I was working on that week or something, and just kind of have my space. And then it's go for a walk, take a shower, grab a little bite to eat. It's almost like I kind of like my body is kind of getting in the zone that will trigger my brain to be ready for the job of writing a song and kind of set up for the inspiration. I don't want to make much of it, but it's almost like an athlete getting ready for that time when it is time to perform, write a song. And and if I can do that kind of without interruption in the mornings, I feel a little more confident going in.
Yeah, I kind of was different from a lot of my peers in that, right? Because in urban music and R&B music, those guys in hip hop, they like to be in there all night.
It's at nighttime.
But for me, and you know, well, it was one other guy, Jermaine Dupri, who I used to work for. He wouldn't start working until like 2 and 3, but that was also that quiet time. His phone would stop and we could just zone out. But I mean, that was a little
2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah, 2 or 3 in the morning. Yeah, we'd go and do things until then, and then start working. But for me, I'm an early riser. I like to be working at 10 a.m. You know, and I think that's just because my thoughts. You know, because you have to live to write, I guess. So it's like reading, of course, is a huge one because you're getting words basically inside of you. But I don't necessarily have a routine. I like to be in different spaces at times, you know. There's a phase I go through where it's like home studio is inspiring because I can just walk out of my room and work. And then there are times where home studio, I can't work there at all, you know, with kids and it's like too much, too close, it's too familiar. I like to go to a studio where I got a board in front of me and speakers in my face. So different environments for me is a big thing because you're really just trying to shock the system because it's like, man, we got to do this every day. So it's like, what's the new thing that's going to shock me and make me, you know, come up with something that I didn't before.
That's a great way to say it, yeah. Keep yourself interested, you know, what's going to keep you curious about it. And you made me think, you know, I've gone on these writing retreats to like Colorado and the beach, and it's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, sure.
I can't write at all looking at things like that. So staring at the speakers or at the wall or at a computer screen really is the best thing for me.
Yeah, sure, I get it. I'm not a big co-writer. I don't co-write a lot. Maybe it's because I play and sing it. I do think it's a great thing. I've seen great things come from collaborating. I heard James Taylor say that he wasn't a great collaborator, and I was like, okay, it's not just me. But you know, I think it is great, especially when you're in those stumps and you can bounce off. But even you know, because I've been in a room of 6 writers and 10 writers, and for me, it gets cluttered. I forget. I kind of lose my sense of what I want to say in the first place. So I think when you find someone, because I have a few people where when you find someone, it's almost like a good relationship. When you find someone that you know understands you and kind of can bounce off and be the yin and yang, I think then that becomes very valuable, you know. But I'm not I don't do a bunch of co-writing.
6 to 10 co-writers, that's a lot.
Again, urban music versus, I live in both worlds,
that's
you know,
right.
and I've seen both, which is kind of why I stay to myself, you know.
Yeah.
But that is, I've seen that more than
the most I've ever been is with 3 other people, maybe 4 other people. You know, for me, I'm a lyricist primarily and a little bit of a melody writer, but I think, for one thing, it's real hard. It's easy to break an appointment with myself. So if I don't have that co-writing appointment in the morning every day, you know, my feet aren't being held to the fire to the same degree. You know, I can say that, okay, I'm going to get up and work by myself, but having somebody else's time to respect forces me to show up at the studio and work that day. And the other thing is that we talk about keeping it interesting every day. By having a bunch of different co-writers, I'm going into it, you know, I might be writing with a track guy one day or with a piano player the next day, and it really moves me around stylistically, musically, stylistically. And hopefully I'm paired up. Usually I'm paired up with guys who are looking for a guy whose left hook is lyrics, and so kind of getting in there with them and all that. So for me, co-writing it's really, and in Nashville, it's kind of the coin of the realm. You know, I mean, it's like the whole the whole system's based on everybody kind of getting together and co-writing. And it does another thing, I feel like, business-wise, that after the song's completed, let's say that there was a good collaboration and you wrote a great song together. Afterwards, we each have the strength of our publishing companies to go out and exploit the song and split the cost of the demo if need be.
Sure.
And use their contacts, so you kind of double your team in trying to get the song recorded by an artist.
Right. I should say different concepts for me, writing as an artist versus writing for someone.
Absolutely.
I've had the most success doing that when we're working on a project, working on an art. I guess it's the selfish and that thing comes when I'm writing for myself, and it's like, okay, I really want to say what I want to say.
Absolutely.
That's when it gets in the way. But you're absolutely right. And I've had great success with collaborating when working on, records for other
Someone
people.
else's
So that's
project.
different perspectives, I say. I just always loved how James Taylor told stories. It was just like, and his melodies were always they were simple, but it was complex enough to, like, as a musician, to appreciate in that way. But the simplicity of it is what was so great. And Stevie was complex, but sometimes when you break those songs down, they're changing keys and doing all this, but the melody line is still simple and singable, So I think both of those guys kind of did the same thing for me in different ways, which was tell a story, the same story, because we're all telling the same story basically over and over again about love and life. They're not that many subjects, but those guys were able to go through the back door, and the side door, and so for me, Stevie as a keyboard player, singer, his melodies and stuff really, really spoke to me, and James Taylor, man, it's just, for me was just that. It was that other thing. It was like I had Stevie and then I got into James and I was like, oh man, and that kind of created my world.
Influences are a funny thing. I think we have conscious influences and unconscious influences, and unconsciously, as I get older, especially having children, I go back and I watch some of the movies or shows that I watched as a child, and I realize, what an impact Schoolhouse Rock and Sesame Street have on a child watching that stuff, and how you become sort of tuned into musical stuff. And then you get older and radio's coming at you. I think that for me, it has to be poetry, actually, is the biggest influence for me, because that was, music was just something that I always loved and had on the side. And I really gave myself to a study of poetry, particularly American poetry. And I think my love of words was really born inside that. And my love of the technology of a poem and all that really kind of came in that. And then I realized that music wasn't going to let me go, and where would a lyricist be most valued, kind of thing. And I kind of turned my attention after I realized the heyday of soul music had passed, and Peter Geralnik messed me up real good for a few years and all that. I kind of turned my attention towards country music, because I saw Randy Travis and Alan Jackson and Clint Black and these guys making records with some really wonderful writing going on, and I thought, okay, that's where I may go try my thing.
Yeah.
I had some good advice offered to me a long time ago by a songwriter mentor friend. He said two things: show up and be open to outcome.
This is a practice as much as medicine is or anything, There are definitely no answers. I mean, some of us figure out more than others, but, if someone had the answer, then they'd just be doing it over and over, and, they'd be a billionaire somewhere. I think we're always just trying to figure it out, and that's, I guess that's why being open is so important, because you have to, if you're closed off, then you'll miss all the stuff, all the possibilities. So I couldn't have said it that better, really.